goes down.
Cheapest, but is it enough to keep our workers safe?
The occupants were kept in place. They did not fly out of the seats. But bear in mind that this is a model, so it did not mimic the actual weight of the passengers and also the momentum of the actual collision in a real lorry or truck.
Prof is right, but it does show that the tumbling around and the possible of multiple injuries because of that might be greatly reduced because of the restraint.
Next up the price tier, we have the fold-away. It's a foldable seat with a lap seat belt plus a handle to hold on to when it gets rocky.
Oh, so it looks like they all still in their seats. That's a good sign.
But probably still traumatized, I guess.
The flatbed have a handle in between that's not retractable. And that could take away some functionality. The other concern with that design I have is that compared to the first one where it's literally soft body to soft body, you now have additional points of impact, especially at your hip area where they are seated. And that could result in other forms of injury.
Also, I think the backrest might not have much of a function for the side-facing seats because you're moving sideways, and so this motion back and forth is not being cushioned by the backrest. Then the other thing that the model is not showing is the potential injuries due to the sideways motion and the lap belt. So because what you have is a rigid body model, so when the body bends sideways by a lot, right, it could create injuries to the soft tissues or internal organs, which is not demonstrable.
And lastly, the bodyguard, an upgrade from the fold-away with a 3-point seat belt, which explains the higher price.
They didn't move around that much. It still looks quite stable. Do you think a 3-point seatbelt will actually help a little bit more in this kind of circumstance?
So the 3-point seatbelt design is very effective in preventing injuries in passengers in cars, but only for forward-facing seats. They have not been shown to be effective in side-facing seats in frontal collisions. And there's a potential injury to the neck in the collision, in sideways motion. The other thing to consider is for an average adult involved in a collision like 60 kilometers per hour, the kind of forces that the seatbelt has to impose to restrain the passenger is about 2 tons or 30 G. So we're going to make sure that the anchorage points are rigid enough to restrain the kind of forces. So that's additional cost.
Would it help if they wore more safety equipment on them?
Yeah, one of the options to explore may be safety helmets or even like inflatable vests that what some motorcyclists do. If they get thrown up, they inflate.
So after looking at all our prototypes, do you think the solution would be sustainable and feasible?
Well, I think it's a good conversation starter. It's a step in the right direction. A lorry was never designed to have crumple zones at the side. So even with the restraints, you would still have other sorts of injuries.
And there are other safety risks that have been introduced. So we have to be very mindful of those.
What we really need to address is this cost struggle in the conversations of migrant workers' safety. Some companies' experience in transporting workers in buses actually hasn't elevated their costs so much, especially if smaller companies work together and say we're in the same location, same dormitory, we can share those resources. So that's one direction we can move towards.
After experiencing for myself what it's like to ride at the back of a lorry, I do think we can do better for our foreign workers. Because I can tell you, it does not feel safe at all. But the good news is that a review is underway by the Transport Ministry to enhance current safety measures. Now, I may not have come up with the perfect solution to this issue, but at least I know the authorities are looking into it. Because one thing is clear, riding at the back of lorries puts lives in danger.
Explore what nature has to offer on your next trip to Gangnam. Join Justin and travel writer Kang Si-hoon as they guide you around 12 special roads to relax and re-energize. So don't miss all the unique hiking tips for the great outdoors. Gangnam Insiders Picks, Sunday on CNA. This program is brought to you by the Gangnam-gu office. CNA Women, an all-new digital destination for women. From personal health and family, financial literacy and investment, to beauty and fashion. Get informative content and be part of the conversation on broader socio-cultural issues that matter to women. CNA Women on CNA Lifestyle. What are the financial forces driving Asia's rise? From transnational business expansions and technology for digital growth to untapped opportunities in the region and beyond. Understand the trends, innovations and corporate deals that are building Asia. On Asia First, Monday mornings on CNA.
53 sailors died when an Indonesian submarine sank into the Sea of Bali.
Saya ikhlas karena di sana dia bertugas dengan baik menjadi pahlawan bangsa.
The Nanggala is 44 years old, and usually the older a submarine gets, the riskier it becomes to operate it.
Is the country's dream of becoming a global naval power still within reach? Indonesia's maritime vision. Insight, Thursday on CNA.
Everyone is always on the go. There's also passion and movement to protect the interests of the underprivileged. I'm Wei Du, CNA, Hong Kong.
This is Singapore Tonight.
Good evening, I'm John Leong. Tonight's top stories. Tougher restrictions on dining out as Singapore's KTV cluster grows. Authorities also to temporarily close hundreds of nightlife venues that have pivoted to F&B to contain the spread of the infections. More details on the index case involved in the KTV cluster. An increase in armed robberies in the Singapore Strait, while incidents on waters across Asia have fallen overall. And involving migrant communities in the conversation about national symbols, the Citizens Work Group unveils its recommendations.
I'm Steve Lai. Also tonight, India's COVID-19 vaccination drive set to receive a 660 million dose boost as Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls for urgent action to fend off a possible third wave. Myanmar to enter a partial COVID-19 lockdown for 1 week. Patients are being turned away as hospitals struggle to cope.
I'm Elizabeth Neo with your Asia Business Update. Singapore's non-oil domestic exports surged faster than expected in June, rising nearly 16%. Plus, uplifting workers in the lift and escalator maintenance sector.
Singapore has implemented tighter measures to contain the spread of COVID-19 after it reported 32 new infections linked to the KTV cluster. Tighter dining restrictions are set to kick in. Pivoted nightlife venues have been ordered shut. For more, Tan Si-hui joins us live from Robertson Quay. Si-hui, what else is going to be implemented?
So 400 nightlife establishments that have pivoted to F&B businesses were ordered shut for 2 weeks. And from 19th July, that's on Monday, diners like you and I, if you're not vaccinated, fully vaccinated, you cannot sit in groups of 5s. You have to sit in groups of 2s in restaurants. And since F&B establishments are considered high-risk setting because people are taking their mask off when they eat, live performances and music remain prohibited.